What was the best value kit that you took with you?
Right. This is a good question. I mean, I think in terms of just literal, like, most versatile tool, chain lube. It's not flashy, but it's seriously useful. Like, and this doesn't have to be like any particular chain lube for me. I think I was using something like Phoenix or something like that. I had an all-weather and I had a dry, but it fixed so many things. So, like, I'm not being funny, but like, I remember I was having my clipless mechanism of my pedal was sticking, and you just like drop a few bits of lube in there and suddenly it works sweet as anything. Or, you know, you're breaking a zip, for example, and you just like drop some lube into the zip and then it works. My pump I'd take apart and re-lube the O-ring, and then it would be smooth as anything after being all gritty. I'm trying to think. There are definitely more, but yeah, there was...
Well, that's a brilliant one. That's a great piece of advice, that.
That was really good. Oh yeah, the other thing, shifter. I fixed my shifter. So after riding the iron train, it got a load of silt on, like, you know, iron ore dust in it. And I was like, and it basically stopped shifting. And this is like one by shifter. And I was like, oh, so I'm doing the rest of the trip single speed then, you know. Shifter's not an easy thing to fix or get repaired. But I like cleaned it out and I dropped some lube into the mechanism and then it worked great, you know. And I just periodically do that when it got sort of like caked up.
Next one. So an expensive piece of kit that was actually absolutely worth the money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the bike front, it would be the frame. Like, at the end of the day, like, I've got a real rule, which is you've got to be psyched on your bike. Like, especially if you're looking at that thing and you're thinking, I've got to ride like 19,000 Ks on it. The least I can do is want to ride it, you know? So like, that was a bit of kit that like and it didn't, you know, it did perform really well, the frame itself. I was absolutely like, you know, in love with it. But I would say like, the really good thing would be like the sleep setup, you know, don't compromise on that. Like a tent for me, I bought it secondhand, but I got like, if you bought it new, I got the MSR Hubba Hubba, which is like a bit of a classic in the bike touring scene. And that is like really good in terms of, it's just, yeah, it's a really top end tent. It doesn't weigh much. It's really easy to set up. It's freestanding, so you can pitch it on like a petrol station forecourt as well. It doesn't need to be pegged out, you know. You can pitch it. I pitch mostly without the outer of it, just like the inner shell. And you can pitch it in like a hotel or, you know, like a guest house room. If it's like a bit horrible in there and you think there's going to be bed bugs, you can like put your tent up instead, you know. So that sleeping bag, I went for like a nice sleeping bag. Again, it's just kit that's going to last. So I had a Rab Alpine or something, you know, something along those lines. And then Thermarest. I bought that secondhand, but they still cost a bomb secondhand. I think it's like 200 quid or something.
Thermarest?
Yeah, which is like your little air mattress.
Ah, okay.
But the brand is Thermarest, and they are
okay.
like, you know, they're pretty gold standard when it comes to sleeping systems. So I got like the longest and widest that is in production, you know, because I was so like, instead of getting the one that's like shaped to your body, it was like the square one.
This is why your setup was 50 kilos, because
Exactly,
you
yeah.
had the biggest bike in the world with equipment for the biggest person in the world.
Exactly.
And the final one, and lovely to finish on a negative, something that you didn't like, something you hated, something that you would definitely change, or ultimately just something that you go, I wish I hadn't done that.
So I think I alluded to it earlier, but like not being, for me, it was like not being scared of like some bits of new tech. So like in terms of materials. So for me, I like avoided carbon like the plague. I was like, I feel like it's just going to shatter into a million pieces when I get anywhere out of Europe. And I was like, actually, obviously technology's improved a lot. And carbon was one of the things that like I should have had more of on my bike. Absolutely not for the frame material. That seems like a massive mistake, because like if you're throwing it on the back of a truck or whatever, you know, and it gets a knock, then that could be your frame like over. But
the beauty of steel in touring is that you're always going to find somewhere that can weld.
Yeah, exactly.
You can weld a steel frame back together, even if it's a botch job, and you will be able to keep riding.
100%. That was totally part of the consideration, you know, like, and that is the material that affords that luxury. So yeah. But then in terms of like, I went for some aluminium rims. I went for some like aluminium components in the tail fin where like actually, you know, carbon fiber is rigid. It doesn't like, you know, it doesn't fatigue in the same way. Mm-hmm. And actually, like it would have done the job. And I met a lot of people out there who had a lot of bike touring experience who were still running certain carbon bits. don't put on like a carbon chain ring or something like this, you know, but like
what sort of bits are they running though? Are you talking like finishing kits just to save a bit of weight, or are you talking?
No, I'm talking like workhorse bits like wheels, you know. So like wheels was a big one that like probably should have gone with a carbon set of hoops. And then I mean the two specific things for me were like the wheels and then the stay between the tail fin arch and the seat. I had a aluminium one that like I just wasn't making friends with it, like it's on bending. So but like the carbon one was rigid, so they helped me out with a carbon replacement.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, nice. Solid guys there as well. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we also have some questions from listeners. I put a call out on Instagram for anyone who wanted to ask you anything. We've been talking for quite a while, so I'm going to say this should be a rapid fire round.
Rapid fire, love it.
So Paul asks, how good were your mechanic skills before you left, and have they improved as a result of the challenges?
Definitely they've improved. I'd say I'm a nuts and bolts mechanic, so when it comes to anything like hydraulics or electrics, I can't do it. So like I'd say they're definitely better than when I was out there, than when I went out there. Yeah.
And as a starting point, had you just learnt from tinkering and watching YouTube videos, or?
So I was really lucky. Coincidentally, I met a guy when I was setting up my bike. I met a guy who became a close friend who was setting up a bike shop in London, and he basically proposed, "Hey, bring your bike in, and I'll teach you like how to work on it."
You've got to give him a shout out.
Oh, absolutely. So Josh from L'Atelier du Velo on Lordship Lane in Dulwich. Absolutely solid. And also he's like a solid gold bike mechanic in terms of he'll talk you through everything. He really wants people to learn. He's like, he'll be really transparent about the work that needs doing and why and what it costs, you know. So he's a really solid gold guy, but he really helped me out with building up my bike.
Learning and how
learning.
to do it. That's actually a great bit of advice. Make friends with a bike mechanic, and even actually propose to them if they don't want to give you their time for free, which why should they? Ask them if they will give you some tuition.
Exactly.
He
started to do this actually at the bike shop, is like give people tuition where you can pay a bit on top of the work that's being done, and he'll like teach you how to do it. So I'd say like pre-Josh, terrible, post-Josh, pretty good.
Interesting.